Hey, it's Nick from the Racing Rejects, and in this video we're going to take an in-depth look at my 1967 Dodge Coronet. So this is my 1967 Coronet. I've had the car for about 4 months now, and it's pretty much been my daily driver ever since. Before we get into the car, I want to get one thing straight. This is a Coronet 440, but that doesn't designate the engine size. The 440 is actually the trim level. That 440 trim level goes back all the way to the early 60s with the Darts, and then it went to the Poleras, and in the mid 60s when the Coronets became the mid-size car, it kind of rolled over to the Coronets. And then above the 440 trim level, there was the 500 and then the RT. So if you see a Coronet 440, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to have a 440 engine. It just means that it's that certain trim level. So this car, it's got a new paint job on it, or I say new, it's about 5 years old. And honestly, it wasn't that good of a paint job. The guy that I bought it from, he had it painted just at a normal body shop, and they didn't straighten up the body any before they put on the paint because it was a straight car to begin with. There's a little bit of Bondo in this front corner here from an old repair. It's probably done sometime early in this car's life. And you know, door dings, little bitty things here and there that they just didn't bother with fixing, and they just sprayed it. But since it's such a straight car, really it's no harm, no foul. As far as a car like this, that's not a show queen. It's a daily driver. Like I say, I drive it everywhere. But you know, whenever they painted the car, it got a lot of orange peel in it, a lot of dust in the paint, and they didn't sand it or buff it or anything. So when I got it, the first thing I did with the paint was I wet sanded the whole car and then buffed it all out. And it turned out way better than I thought it was going to. This is kind of close to the original color, but it was supposed to be the original color, but the original one is, of course, would have been a single stage paint. This is a clear coat, base coat. The trim, I did go back and put some more black in here. It's in pretty good shape. It could be straightened up, but I was in a hurry when I did it all. The worst part would be this right here. There's some Bondo and stuff in this piece of trim. It kind of got beat up at one point in its life. So that's about all for the paint. So let's go up front here and I'll tell you a little bit about this 273 engine and a few more things on the front of the car. You can see this piece of trim that I was talking about that's mangled up a little bit, and it's got some lead and Bondo that somebody put in there trying to repair it at one time, and most of that's kind of fallen out. And then the front bumper, it's in a kind of decent shape. The rear bumper has actually got some, it's a little straighter, the rear bumper is, but it's got some surface rust on it where the chrome is kind of flaking off. This one's got this one gray area here. I don't know if that's lead that has been filled in or if it's just missing the chrome there. It looks like it's been sanded off, so I think someone might have filled in some lead there. And the bumper's actually bent down a little bit here. And it's really not that noticeable unless you really know what you're looking at. So it's not that big of a deal, but a nice set of bumpers would help it out a little bit. Under the hood, again, like I said, 273. It was originally a 2-barrel, and that's one of the things that's not original to this car anymore. Someone has swapped in a 4-barrel and an Edelbrock Performer intake. No AC, power steering, manual drum brakes. Other than that, it's just pretty much stock. The exhaust, it's got like a Flowmaster mufflers and just a normal, you know, muffler shop special dual exhaust with the H-pipe. So nothing fancy, not too loud. So the interior of the car is where what I think is the most noticeable wear is on the entire car, and that's this seat right here. That is the upholstery starting to rip, and it's just the threads are coming out of it. And like I say, that's the most noticeable place on the car that there's any wear. And that's something that, you know, down the road would probably be the first thing someone would do to this car is replace these seat covers. Now this passenger side top and the back top, they look almost brand new, but the bottoms, you know, there's definitely some wear where people have been sitting in them. And of course the driver's side, you got this and about a 4-inch cut right here. For me, it's kind of out of sight, out of mind, because when I'm driving the car, I can't see them, I don't notice them. So not that big of a deal. The rest of the interior is in great shape. This dash pad looks new, and it's probably been replaced in the past. Headliner looks great, and the carpet, I did take it out and re-dye it. The reason I was taking it out is because there used to be a dent in the floorboard on this thing, and it looks like someone must have left something under the car while it was jacked up and then let it down without taking it out. And so I took the carpet out, peeled back the sound deadening, which I think is aftermarket sound deadening material, and I fixed that dent. There's still some like wrinkling on the floor pan because the metal was stretched, and that was just kind of the best I could do. But it's not noticeable unless you look under the car. And then, of course, while I was under there, I looked for some rust, and I gotta say, this car is about 98% rust-free. It's really amazing because this car has been in South Louisiana and South Mississippi its whole life, as far as I know, and there's hardly any rust, and that's really amazing. There are two about quarter-size holes that I found above the torsion bar cross member on the passenger side. And I kind of treated them with some rust converter and some red oxide primer. And then I did notice while I was under the car the other day a small hole in the driver's side that you can actually notice from underneath the car. Again, really small thing. I didn't even know it was there until the other day. Other than that, I did notice that someone had patched some rust, it looks like, in the trunk, in the spare tire well actually. And that's something, again, it's hard to notice, but when I was under the car, you can tell because someone left one of the rubber plugs out, and there's some fiberglass across that. I mean, other than that, the undercoating is still under, where that patch is. So enough talking about, how the car looks. Let's get in and take it for a spin. So I'm cruising down the back roads in the Coronet now, and if there's one thing this car does better than anything else, it is just cruise, because whether you're on back roads or a highway, the thing just floats down the road. The seat is worn out just enough to give you enough support, but yet it's just really comfortable. You can throw your arm up here, put the other one in the windowsill, the one finger power steering, it just keeps the car straight down the road. It's really a perfect cruiser. The little 273, it just chugs along, gets good mileage, makes enough power to keep up with modern traffic. It could use more power, but it's definitely adequate. One thing I really love about this car is that everything works. I'm talking, the dome light, the backup lights, the tag light, all the gauges. The fuel gauge does read a little low, so whenever it gets to empty, you really have like a third of a tank left. The wipers work, the washers work, everything on this thing works. Radio defrost, and that's really a testament to how well these cars were made. If you look, this is a 50-year-old car, and everything functions as it should. It's just like a normal used car. So, that really, it gives me the confidence to where I can take this thing wherever I want to go with it. The only problems I have had out of this car, you've seen in our other videos if you've been following us. The last two videos we did was when I took this to Birmingham, and then whenever I me and Wesley went to the Carcraft Summer Nationals in this thing, and the only real problems I've had in this car were highlighted in those videos. So whenever I brought this thing back, and yeah, the car had been sitting for like 10 years because the guy I bought it from owned it for 10 years, and he told me that he only put 50 or 100 miles on this car. So it had really been sitting up for a while, and when I got back, a lot of the parts in the front end, the ball joints, the lower control arm bushings, all of that needed attention because the lower control arm bushings were pretty much gone by the time I got them back here. So once I, rebuilt a lot of the stuff in the front end, all that's been working fine. The only other issue I had was right before we went to Bowling Green, where the main fuse link that powers everything in the car, someone had tried to repair it at one time with just, stripping it back and putting a connector on the end and shoving it into the bulkhead connector, and that little repair just didn't work anymore. They didn't get a good connection on the fuse link, so I just replaced the whole fuse link, and I've had no issues since. my original plans for this car was to do a big block and a 4-speed swap. I've had a 4-speed sitting at home for a while that I've been wanting to put in something. And after I got this car and started driving around, everything was so nice. And this is the only old car I have right now that runs and drives. So I'm like, I don't want to tear into this thing, especially when I got several other projects at home that I need to be working on. And that brings me to, you know, my future plans with it. You know, what, am I just going to keep driving it? What? As bad as I hate to say it, I'm probably going to just sell it. Summer is coming to an end, even though it's super hot outside. But Cruising the Coast is coming up in a few weeks. I'd like to have the car for Cruising the Coast, but I'm probably going to go ahead and put it up for sale because, like I say, I have a bunch of projects at home I need to get to, and although this car doesn't take a lot of my time other than just driving it, I got a lot of money tied up into this thing that I could put towards other projects. That's really probably the plan, as bad as I hate to do it, because it has been such a great daily driver. But I've really enjoyed my time with this car, but I think it's time for someone else to enjoy it. That's it. That's the Coronet, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope this answered any questions you had about the car, because even though it was in the last 2 videos we put up, we really didn't talk a lot about the car. If you want to catch me on social media, you can find me on Instagram at NickFerris53. Also, you can find the Racing Rejects on Instagram. We are at Racing Rejects. Also, we're Racing Rejects on Facebook. If you want to email us, we are theracerejects@gmail.com. Thanks for watching.